Hello everyone, it's me, your average bonehead, Jay. And boy, Mario sure had a good year last year, didn't he? We get a brand new 2D Mario after a decade that revolutionizes that part of the series. We get the grand return of the RPGs, and a new game starring Princess Peach coming this year. But on top of that, before all that happened, Mario had his second cinematic venture in the form of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was done by a collaboration with Nintendo and Illumination. Illumination is a studio that I don't hate like most of the internet. I'm more of kinda just disappointed that they don't really try as hard as they clearly could. That's my only real beef with them. So of course, I, like many, was skeptical when we heard the people who made the Minions are making a Mario movie. And then even weirder when we end up learning that Charlie Day is gonna be Luigi, Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong, Chris Pratt is Mario. Yeah, we were all waiting with bated breath to see if this was actually gonna be good or an absolute train wreck like the other version. The movie came out, and well, I think it being the third highest grossing animated movie of all time means it's doing well, even though I think it should be the highest considering what its competition is. But that's besides the point. As time went on though, people started saying that the movie wasn't actually that good, mostly pointing to its rushed pacing, and saying that it's nothing but just fan service. My thoughts? No, I think the movie's actually really good. Great even. Not the best movie ever, but for being an animated love letter to the entire Mario franchise, I, just that, love it. So, let's get right into this movie. Or, better yet, let's-a go. The movie begins with a beautifully animated attack on the Iceland, which, yeah, let's just get this part out of the way quickly. The animation in this movie is so gorgeous to look at. Illumination really stepped up their game for this one. But anyway, said attack is being done by the King of the Koopas, Bowser, voiced by Jack Black.
Open the gates or die.
And his assistant, the Magic Koopa, Kamek, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson.
Behold, the King of the Koopas!
These two are the best part of the whole movie. They steal the show whenever they're on screen, especially Bowser. This entire movie is basically just how he is in the RPGs, or really any game where he actually talks, having that decently strong, dangerous villain vibe to him, but at the same time, he's kind of a goofy idiot. And I just love that. But for now, we get to see his dangerous villain side, as the Guardians of the Iceland, the TC Nation, try attacking the Kingdom of Skill, and unfortunately failing. And it doesn't take long for Bowser to waylay to their kingdom and steal their almighty power-up, the Power Star. Or Superstar, or Starman, whatever you want to call it.
And now no one can stop me!
We then cut to the real world, where we see a commercial for the Super Mario Bros. Plumbing service, set to the plumber rap from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, and I'm so happy they included that.
We're the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame.
Where we get to see the brothers themselves, Mario and Luigi, voiced by Chris Pratt and Charlie Day respectively.
Wow, you were great. I was great. Are you kidding me? You were great.
I think they do a good job in this movie. I think most can agree that Charlie Day wasn't a bad choice for Luigi, as he can definitely capture that scaredy cat, yet brave when the time is right persona that Luigi has. Chris Pratt as Mario was definitely a weird one though. Though I do like how they pay homage to the original voice, Chris Pratt is basically just using his regular voice in this movie. But honestly, for the arc Mario goes through in this movie, I think this was actually a good idea. This movie really likes to emphasize the fact that Mario and Luigi are just meant to be everyman. Yeah, despite all the crazy stuff they do throughout the games, they are still just two human Italian plumbers from Brooklyn who just happen to be the saviors of this magical world. And the voices the two of them have in this movie really do help to emphasize that. Though before we get to any of that, the two of them are still just starting off their new plumbing business, as they're chastised by their old boss, Foreman Spike, that's a deep cut, and even slightly threatened by him. But speaking of deep cuts, let's talk about the references, shall we? One criticism this movie seems to face is how many references to Mario and Nintendo that is made, but honestly I don't know how that's a problem considering what else were you expecting them to do. But one detail I absolutely love is how, when in the real world, the references are only to other Nintendo franchises, yet when in the Mushroom Kingdom, that's when they start doing the Mario references. My favorite of all the Nintendo-themed references definitely has to be this Pikmin statue, though. Though, back to the plot, Mario and Luigi end up getting their first call and head off to the scene. However, their truck isn't working, so they have no choice but to use good old-fashioned platforming, as we get a visual representation of Rain and Ice playthrough through any 2D Mario game. Set to No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Yeah, I guess we might as well talk about the music. The main background OST in this movie is amazing. I, and many others, love how they used these songs from the games in the actual movie. Some people criticize that, saying that it's just blatant fan service, but honestly, what else were they supposed to do? Not use the game's music? That seems pretty stupid to make a movie based on a video game and not use its iconic soundtrack. You use everything else but the soundtrack? That's weird. The only legitimate criticism towards the soundtrack I understand is the use of licensed music. Now, I'm not completely against Mario having licensed music in it, considering I'm a fan of the original version of the Super Show episodes that use cover songs of licensed music, but in this movie, I can understand how it can be a bit overbearing, especially when you realize that there were songs originally composed for these scenes that were cut out and replaced by the licensed music. Though, to be fair, I don't hate any of the song choices that were used, and the scenes do work well enough with them, but I can understand the frustration, especially with one scene in particular. Though, back to this scene, I'll still admit that it's weird that Chris Pratt starred in 2 movies with No Sleep Till Brooklyn in it. Anyways, they get to the call and actually do a good job fixing the pipe. Unfortunately, a crazy dog that Luigi accidentally broke the bone of ends up attacking the two of them and ends up ruining the job, meaning they go home failures to their family.
Oh, it's the Super Mario Brothers from the TV.
Yeah, this blew my mind in the theater, and I still can't believe that we actually got this. We never see anything of their families aside from silhouettes of their parents in the Yoshi's Island games. So yeah, more please. Their uncles make fun of them for the commercial. While their mom tries to bring up their spirits, their dad tells Mario,
I think you're nuts.
as he chastises them for quitting their job, and also apparently for bringing Luigi down with him. And Mario ends up heading up to his room. Luigi follows him, and we get this from Mario.
Our whole lives, everyone's telling us we can't do this, we can't do that. Just sick and tired of feeling so small.
And this is why I call BS to anyone who says that there's no real character development in this movie. It's there, it's just really simple. Since Mario, more specifically just him himself, is our main character in this movie, he's really the only one that goes through any major character arc. Said arc being that everyone telling him that he'll basically amount to nothing in life, and then he goes on a crazy adventure which causes him to show skills that even he didn't know he had, and he ultimately ends up saving the day, becoming a hero to everyone. It's a simple arc of character at the bottom, but then goes on big adventure where he ends up on the top, but it kind of makes sense for Mario, especially when you really think about how this is trying to be like how a player is with the game. They start off at the bottom with nothing and end up defeating the great evil at the ending. So yeah, for a movie like this, I think Mario's arc is fine. Could it have been explored more? Maybe. Could the other character arcs been explored more? Oh, definitely. But for Mario himself, I think his arc is good in this movie. And let's get the first parts of that arc going, because it turns out all of Brooklyn is being flooded for some reason. And we get a cameo from Mayor Pauline. Mario and Luigi end up heading to the scene, and they pretty quickly figure out where the real problem is, and they head into the sewers to go fix it. Also, apparently this could just be a theory I heard, because it's never truly stated. Brooklyn being flooded is actually coming from Bowser melting Iceland. Mario and Luigi do almost manage to fix the problem, but they end up getting lost deeper into the sewers, and eventually coming across a giant green pipe. Said pipe being a warp pipe. The two of them end up getting sucked in, and end up also getting separated, with Luigi going one way into a dark cloud, and Mario getting whisked away into the Mushroom Kingdom. Where he ends up meeting this little mushroom guy named Toad, voiced by Keegan-Michael Key.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Toad.
Who actually does a good job in this. My only real problem with Toad in this movie, and this is just a personal thing, is that I kind of like when it's distinct that Toad and Captain Toad are two different characters, not the same. In this movie, through visuals, and especially the beautiful music here.
And this place is...
The Mushroom Kingdom!
tries to imply that the two are the same person, but it doesn't really make sense to me. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention this running joke. Mario doesn't like mushrooms, so that makes him landing in the Mushroom Kingdom very ironic.
Mushrooms, really? Now that is a cruel twist of fate.
And I don't care if it's cliche, I chuckled at Mario not liking mushrooms. Toad ends up telling Mario that Luigi landed in Darkland, which are under Bowser's control, so to help Mario, Toad ends up taking him to see the princess. Meanwhile, we see Luigi in Darkland all by himself, and let's be real, every fan in the audience was just waiting for the Luigi's Mansion bit. As Luigi ends up getting chased down by some pretty scary looking dry bones, and eventually he's ambushed by Shy Guys and a Sniffet. Back with Mario and Toad, they arrive in the Mushroom Kingdom capital of Toad Town, and we get a scene that I really like, not just because of the amazing music, but mainly how they contextualize the video game Mushroom Kingdom to work in movie form. It does make it feel like this once video game platforming world is actually a lived-in environment, and I really love that. Eventually, they make it to the top where Princess Peach's castle is. They're blocked by Alagold and Buckenberry, at least I think that's who these two are supposed to be, and they end up saying the line that the movie was contractually obligated to.
Our princess, though, is in another castle.
Toad ends up distracting them, and Mario manages to sneak in. And then we are introduced to, surprisingly, the most controversial part of the entire movie, Princess Peach, voiced here by Anya Taylor-Joy. Alright? Time to defend Peach in this movie. That's right, I'm going up against whiny VTubers that complain about box art changes, Slick Frame and his weird Super Crown fetish Sona, and Charad5 and his pathetic attempts to copy the already annoying Cinema Sins. Seriously, why would you copy them? Oh, we're getting off topic. To an extent, I get it. Peach in this movie doesn't really have the same level of sweetness from the games, but it's not completely gone, as Peach fans would want you to believe, as it does come out pretty often when she's around Mario, which makes sense. This all makes sense in context, again, something Peach fans really choose to ignore, as this movie is presenting it as this is the first time Bowser's throwing a full-scale attack on the Mushroom Kingdom, so it makes sense that Peach would be very serious at this point. Even though throughout the movie she's shown to be goofy, once again it's when she's with Mario, and it makes complete sense that Peach would be very skilled and knowledgeable of this world, because, you know, she lives here. Why are you guys now mad all of a sudden that she's fighting back? But here's my real problem, and this is personal, and once again, it comes down to that people are complaining now all of a sudden about slight changes to Peach's personality. Now, allow me to go off the rails for a second here, because I have seen fanfics get absolutely eviscerated for portraying characters even slightly different. Remember, this is coming from an ex-My Hero Academia fan. I know what I'm talking about. And yet, in the Three Little Princesses, it has Princess Peach be a whiny, manipulative, controlling, attention-hogging egomaniac who does not care for the well-beings of the ones around her unless she's in the spotlight, and would go as far as to try to use the Star Rod, you know, that ultra-powerful and dangerous artifact from Paper Mario, to try and take away Daisy's popularity. This person was able to sell this actual defamation of Peach's entire character for actual money, by the way. Movie Peach, however, is still kind and caring. She is still funny and sweet, and she would do anything for her people and her friends. But this is the one people hated for being the quote-unquote action girl, and not this monster?
On the one hand, gold. On the other hand, painful, agonizing failure.
And you may think it's weird that I'm going after a fan comic, but remember, this fan comic is sold for real money. And yet, where were the complaints? The hatred, the arguments, and where were the death threats? Now, there are many other problems with the Three Little Princesses that I can make a whole video tearing that pathetic excuse for a Mario fan comic to shreds, but I don't think I'm ever going to, because the last time I went out criticizing that comic, the writer got pissy, that's the tea, and almost sent his entire fandom at someone who has 1/100th of his popularity. He later deleted the tweet, but still, good to know he can take criticism. All you need to know is that the comic takes F to a whole new level that I had to give it a super F. To quote Shay Frillis,
This shit belongs in G tier!
Anyways, let's get back to talking about something good, shall we? My point is, I don't get how people can complain about Movie Peach for being a bit more active in the plot, but praise people and put horrible comics on a pedestal who actually destroy Peach's character just because it's connected to their nostalgia. You all hate that she's not a bubbly, bouncy damsel in this movie? Well, she could have always been worse. But if you like the comic though, I guess there's no problem with that. And this isn't an attack on the author as a person. I just really don't like his writing or shipping morale and wanted to point out some hypocrisy in the fandom. I just need to get that out of the way. Anyways, back to the movie. Peach's voice in this movie, well, Anya Taylor-Joy does a good job, though I do think the voice is kind of a bit deep for Peach.
We are going to stop Bowser.
My only true criticism though with everything involving Peach in this movie is, why is that not Toadsworth? He was in the concept art, they clearly thought of using him. Why didn't you use Toadsworth? He was right there. Anyways, with the threat of Bowser looming, Peach wants to go to the Jungle Kingdom so she can convince the Kongs to lend her their army so they can have a fighting chance. And right as she's leaving, she ends up running into Mario. And it looks like it's love at first back throw. Naturally, Peach is curious to see another human in this world, but Mario doesn't have time for that as he wants to tag along on her adventure so he can save his brother. So Peach ends up taking him to a training course and even shows him the power-ups, which I don't get why people are upset that they never explained how the power-ups work. I mean, it would kind of be dumb to try and bring logic to these things that don't have logic to them. So Mario ends up trying and failing over and over again at the course, all set to holding out for a hero. Yeah, I like the song here. After many hours, Mario gets close enough, and the two set off on their journey while reacquiring Toad. As the three of them head off, we see Luigi, who is now prisoner to the Shy Guys, as we get an adorable little flashback to when the two of them were babies, and how it shows that Mario was always there for him. Then we check back with Bowser, as we reveal that his grand evil plan is,
I will ask their princess to marry me in a fairy tale wedding!
Yeah, this really just is his Paper Mario personality. Emphasized even more when he sings, Peaches, 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 peaches. I don't care how overplayed this song has become. I love it, okay? It's still very funny. Though what Bowser does to Kamek once he learns that Peach is traveling with someone,
I'm not threatened,
is definitely funnier. Yeah, Bowser throughout this whole movie is jealous of Mario despite the fact that the two do not actually meet each other until the ending. And I actually like this. It makes it so that Bowser is spending the whole movie building up Mario as some epic love rival for him, and it causes him to end up blaming Mario for his own problems. And I really like that characterization of Bowser in this movie. Meanwhile, we end up seeing Mario, Peach, and Toad camping out for the night, and we get a bit of Peach's backstory. And this is where I agree that certain scenes in this movie could have used a few extra seconds. Like 30 more seconds would have helped this scene, because in this movie, it definitely seems like they're trying to lean more towards Mario and Peach actually liking each other, though I don't feel like they went as far as they definitely could have with this movie, and that's kind of because the movie does just speed through its plot. It's not the biggest problem ever, but it's definitely something I hope they fix in the sequel. The Shy Guys end up bringing Luigi to Bowser, and he ends up throwing him in the dungeon with the rest of the TC Nation and this Luma, who only exists to tell hilariously morbid jokes and let the audience know that Galaxy is in fact going to happen.
The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me!
Meanwhile, Mario, Peach, and Toad arrive at Congo Bongo Island, where they're greeted by a talking gorilla who chaperones them to meet the king. Which honestly, I feel like this gorilla should have been Funky Kong. He looks close enough like him that I feel like they should have just gone all the way. But that's the least of our concerns, because the real missed opportunity is the musical choice. Look, using Take On Me is not the worst thing ever, but what I think makes this one the most egregious of all the changes is because they had a whole Donkey Kong Country melody that was originally going to play here that they changed for a licensed song, and that definitely stings. Though, I will admit, them bringing back Swanky Kong just to kill him off with this song playing in the background almost makes it all worth it. They make it to the king, Cranky Kong, and yeah, his voice is definitely the weakest in this movie.
I heard you want my army!
Honestly, I much prefer his cartoon voice.
Do you think you two apes can break up your party long enough to fix up my roof?
And he tells them that the only way they'll be able to get his army is if Mario beats his son in a battle. His son being Donkey Kong, and he even makes his appearance set to the DK rap.
I'm Donkey Kong!
Even though they didn't credit the composer of the song. But hey, we do get a cameo from Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, and Junkie Kong. Yeah, he's not dead. Donkey Kong in this movie is voiced by Seth Rogen, and yes, he does do the laugh. And he and Mario have an epic battle utilizing multiple power-ups. Eventually, Mario manages to beat him by using the cat bell from 3D World, and they end up winning the army. We get a decently cute scene between Mario and Peach, and we see the beginning of Mario and Donkey Kong's friendly rivalry with each other. Cranky Kong ends up telling him that they'll have to head back to the Mushroom Kingdom using a shortcut, and in order to do that, they'll need carts. We end up getting a cool cart building montage, set to Thunderstruck, as we see Mario with the cart, Peach with a bike, and Toad with what I'm assuming is a reference to SMG4.
It's all about making that GTA.
As they all head off, we see another fun scene with Bowser practicing proposing to Peach. I just love that they were not only able to work in his suit from Odyssey, but Kamek cross-dressing as Peach. That's just hilarious. But they're told that the good guys are planning an ambush, so they plan to ambush their ambush. Said good guys ramp onto the ever-famous Rainbow Road. We get a cute scene of Mario and Peach flirting, at least that's what it seems like, but it's cut short when they're ambushed by the Koopa Troop. And yeah, the action scene that follows suit is fast-paced, intense, and amazing. The fact that they had the idea to turn one of the most treacherous tracks in all of Mario Kart into a heart-pounding action sequence is brilliant. Eventually though, General Blue Shell becomes the biggest hater and commits self-sacrifice in order to get rid of Mario, causing he and Donkey Kong to fall into the ocean below and be eaten by a giant eel from Mario 64. On top of that, it causes the Kong army to be cut off from the rest of Rainbow Road and be captured. So Peach and Toad have no choice but to quickly hurry back to the Mushroom Kingdom and evacuate all the other Toads as Bowser arrives and proposes to Peach.
Love really makes a guy come out of his shell. I told you that line wouldn't work.
You're doing great.
And he backs her into a corner where she has no choice but to say yes. Meanwhile, with Mario and Donkey Kong, they end up arguing over who has more emotional baggage when it comes to their fathers seeing them as jokes, until they eventually realize they can escape by using the rocket barrel, and they make their way back to the Mushroom Kingdom. Meanwhile, Peach and Bowser's wedding begins, as Peach manages to get the upper hand on Bowser and uses the ice flower to freeze him. And once again, I have to question if people who complain about Peach's characterization in this movie actually were paying attention. Guys, Bowser was about to sacrifice the Kongs, the TC Nation, the Luma, and Luigi for this wedding. And the bigger thing everyone seems to ignore, Peach does not know Mario is still alive. She thinks he's dead at this point. So to Peach, her options literally are marry Bowser, let him sacrifice these innocent people, and enslave her entire Toad population, or do her absolute best to try and fight back to save them all. It's not bad writing, you media illiterate idiots. Oh well, at least one thing we can all agree is epic is what ends up happening when Mario and Donkey Kong arrive. As the two of them utilizing power-ups, yes, Donkey Kong uses the Fire Flower, ends up tearing down a bunch of Bowser's army as they make their way up to the castle, with Mario even getting the Tanuki suit. Donkey Kong ends up managing to save everyone from being sacrificed, and Mario ends up saving and finally reuniting with his brother Luigi.
I told you! See? As long as we're together, everything is gonna be okay!
And I love the relationship Mario and Luigi have in this movie. They are such kind brothers to each other. We don't see them interact much in this movie, but when we do, it's always a great time. Bowser ends up freeing himself and launches a bonsai build to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom, but Mario ends up managing to trick it into detonating in the warp zone, which causes all of them to be sucked back to Brooklyn. And yeah, I love it that the final battle takes place in Brooklyn. And the final battle is pretty standard stuff. Mario is first losing to Bowser and ends up hiding away, but is inspired by his own words from earlier and comes back to fight. They play a game of hot potato with the Power Star, and eventually Mario, teaming up with his brother Luigi, ends up using the star that makes them, as you all know, invincible, with that iconic Starman theme in the background. And with their family watching, they fight back against Bowser's entire army and Bowser himself, defeating him. Afterwards, Peach ends up giving Bowser the mini mushroom, which turns him small, and they put him in a jar. There are no jokes that can be made about this, as Mario and Luigi are deemed heroes to all of Brooklyn. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this yet, but Mario and Luigi's dad in this is voiced by Charles Martinet, and this is technically the last major Mario-related role he had before he stepped down of playing the role of the Bros, and they had new voices play them for Mario Wonder. And I think having him play their father, with this being his last line,
"These are my boys!"
is a nice way to honor him. As later on, we see, of course, Mario and Luigi have moved to the Mushroom Kingdom with 24/7 access between it and the real world, as the movie ends with Mr. Blue Sky playing in the background. Oh, and fun fact, originally, and when I say that I mean only on the vinyl version of the soundtrack, Hello Happy Kingdom from Super Mario RPG was supposed to play here. I'm assuming this was meant to be foreshadowing because the remake that came out that year hadn't been revealed yet, though this piece of music isn't even on the official soundtrack, only the vinyl version. I just thought that was a neat little fact. And then we get two post-credit scenes, one where we get a funny scene with Small Bowser, which I'm also pretty sure is a Galaxy 2 reference, and a slightly bigger one where we reveal that something was left behind in the sewers of Brooklyn. That being... It's not the biggest thing ever, but I kinda like this reveal, as the movie ends on that note. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is super. Yeah, this movie definitely has its pretty obvious flaws, and some flaws people make up just so they can pretend to sound smart, but for what it is, this is a love letter to the Mario franchise. Though the pacing is very quick, we don't get as many good character moments as we should, the cast is kinda head-scratching, and it could have done without a lot of the licensed music, I still think this is a great adaptation of the Mario universe, and more than deserving of being the third highest grossing animated movie of all time. Of course, when the sequels roll around, and that's when, not if, it's definitely getting sequels, that's when they're gonna have to put a bit more effort into story and characters, but for now, this movie is really, really good, and I can't recommend it enough, whether you're a fan of Mario, or you just want to have a good time with a fun movie. Now, I'm your average bonehead Jay, and if you're not watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie, you're gonna turn into a Goomba, and I wish you all good night.